Hi and welcome everyone. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present today at the CICAN Third Fora Pacific Alliance. My name is Dr. Sally Vinden and I'm a teaching and learning specialist for the Faculty of Trades and Applied Technology at Vancouver Island University. I'm also always proud to introduce myself as a Red Seal certified hairstylist. I'm going to start today just by giving a quick overview of the hairstylist pilot project and my vision that guided that design. I'll then make the claim that online learning doesn't happen by chance, and in doing so I'm going to provide an overview of the curriculum development process that was used in this project. I'm going to share with you two key lessons learned from this pilot, especially the barriers that presented themselves and how we were able to implement changes for future deliveries. In closing, I'll talk briefly on the benefits that this delivery model had for the three main stakeholder groups, and my hope that this model will be applied to other trades at the global level. So, what was the hairstylist pilot project? Well, in 2018, the Industry Training Authority in British Columbia put out a call. The call was for the development and delivery of innovative alternate delivery models for technical training. Hairstylist was an ideal trade for this project because the hairstylist industry did not support block release for their apprentices. They did not want apprentices to leave the salons to return to the technical training centres. So VIU collaborated with two other institutions in British Columbia to answer the call, and we were awarded the contract. So what was my vision? Well, before I tell you my vision, I'll explain what block release means in the Canadian context. So this traditional block release model would have been 5 weeks of face-to-face delivery at 30 hours per week. This means the apprentice must leave their place of work and often their home in order to attend technical training. So for these reasons, completion rates are very low. So I envisioned a new model. It was 12 weeks of online delivery, 10 hours per week, and it was followed by 1 week face-to-face delivery, 30 hours. So the uniqueness of this delivery model is that the online component was delivered centrally. So all apprentices enrolled at VIU for the 12-week portion of the program. And then it was followed by a 1 week face-to-face, which was offered at the local training institutions. And there are 6 of those spread throughout the province in BC. So this new model meant that apprentices could complete their training while working in the salon and living at home. And this was irrelevant of how rural or remote their geographic location. Did I have buy-in from all stakeholders? Absolutely not. So although the salon owners and hairstylists in the industry supported the idea in theory, they could not see how hairdressing could be taught in the online environment. My fellow trades instructors also felt the same way. They claimed that it would be impossible to teach both practical and theory in the online environment. Hairstylists and apprentices also had that concern. So I want to tell you now a short story about where my vision began. 5 years earlier, I'd read an article about a pilot project that provided welding students with online technical training. To my knowledge, that was the first of its kind. It was delivered at a time when the oil fields in Canada were booming and employers were paying big dollars, top dollars, to keep every apprentice on site working long hours each day. This meant that the apprentices could not return to their post-secondary institutions to continue their training. And if they didn't get their training certificates, they could not progress at work. So it was a vicious cycle for the apprentices. However, one college piloted an online program for welding students. The students would watch lectures and videos online, and they would complete their written assignments and multiple choice tests all in their own time. But how did they complete the practical? Well, they used GoPros. Digital cameras were strapped to their welding helmets, and they recorded themselves performing specific competencies during their regular daily work activities. The students then uploaded the video to the learning management system where the instructor could review it and provide feedback. So despite all the negativity that surrounded me as I worked to design the Hairstylist online project, this success story really stuck firmly in the back of my mind, and I allowed it to keep me moving forward. So at this point in time, I should also mention that I had not taught online before, nor had I developed an online course, especially not a hands-on technical training one. So I knew enough to know that online learning doesn't happen by chance. And I also knew that I had a very steep learning curve ahead of me in order to further develop my own knowledge and skills, and also to lead my team in a way that supported them to shift their attitudes towards online learning. So I identified 3 key areas for development and growth, and this was knowledge, skills, and attitudes regarding online facilitation, online pedagogies, and also further in developing technical skills in using LMS systems. Because I knew the biggest task ahead of me was to shift the mindsets of instructors, we began with analysis of our current teaching practices. We started by looking at the pedagogies used in traditional classrooms. And from this, we came up with a list of key practices and assumptions that you're seeing listed here today. So a takeaway really was that the traditional classroom model assumes that learning is dependent on the instructor's present. The instructor reads the class, they speed up, they slow down, they take questions and constantly monitor levels of understanding. They also have the luxury of planning as they go. Whereas the digital classroom assumes something very different. So to start, teaching and learning is asynchronous. Students set their own timetables and take responsibility for their learning. So this fundamental shift in the classroom structure also requires a shift in pedagogical practices. And in doing so, for many instructors, this disrupts their previous understandings of what it means to teach and what it means to learn. The online classroom assumes learners are capable agents in the acquisition of knowledge, and that learning takes place without the physical presence of an instructor. So what does this mean for the instructor? Well, in the context of the digital classroom, the instructor's role becomes one of a curriculum designer. If students are to learn in asynchronous time, the curriculum must be designed in a deliberate and systematic way that scaffolds an intentional learning journey for the student. So how do we do this? Well, this takes us to the core of this project: the curriculum development and use of appropriate pedagogies. Course design, whether it be for online delivery or traditional methods, the basic principles of curriculum development apply. That means starting with the end in mind. The backward design process begins by asking, what do I want the students to understand, to know, and to be able to do? Second, it asks, how do I assess this learning has been achieved? And the last step, which learning activities will lead to the desired results? So I want you to consider just for a moment how often curriculum development begins with content as opposed to outcomes. So for us, in order to develop the learning outcomes, we began by referring to the program outline. This ensured that the curriculum we designed aligned with our national occupational standard. We then went beyond the program outline to take a holistic view and to ask the questions, what is it the professional hairstylist needs to know, feel, and do in order to be successful in industry? So we did this on the understanding that in industry, this is where real life problems exist. Knowledge, skills, and attitudes cluster together. They're not deconstructed into units and into competencies. So from here, we developed holistic learning outcomes in all 3 domains. We presented these to the students as the big ideas in the cognitive, the psychomotor, and the affective domains. We took into consideration the head, the heart, and the hands. With the learning outcomes defined, the learning journey that the student is going to take from day one of entering the course until the last day of completion needs to be put into place. So we had our learning outcomes. We now needed to bridge the gap from the finish line to the start of the program using pedagogical approaches that provide self-directed learning opportunities for students. And these need to be structured in a way that will provide the appropriate scaffolding, the appropriate building blocks for students to successfully navigate their way through this course. So we did this by going to stage 2 of curriculum development, and that is creating a series of authentic assessments. So authentic assessments are holistic assessments, and an example that we're probably all familiar with is the driving test. I think we'd all agree that a multiple choice test is not a good measure to assess driving skills, whereas an authentic assessment like the road test for driving provides opportunities for students to solve real life problems. So authentic assessments also come in the shape of case studies and capstone projects that require both theoretical and practical knowledge and skills to be applied. And these allow students to problem solve and apply higher order thinking. In the context of the level 2 hairstylist online, these authentic assessments were designed so that students' technical training was embedded in their workplace. The hairdressing students performed their assigned practical competencies on live models or mannequins. They recorded them using their cell phones, and photos and videos were uploaded to the LMS. Once they were there, the instructor could review them and provide feedback. So the advantage of this is that the instructor, when watching that video, they can slow it down, they can fast forward it, and they can provide feedback on very specific details. And this is something that is not possible in a face-to-face classroom. The advantage for the students is that they get to watch and critique their own performance. So many students reported that they worked to a much higher standard because they were able to watch themselves performing the competency, then correct their own mistakes before re-recording it and then re-uploading it. So just some stats here, 19 students were enrolled in the pilot project. Instructors reported a higher level of practical competency was achieved by the class as a whole than in the face-to-face environment. They also reported that a higher level of communication skills were demonstrated, both written and verbal. And we're very pleased to let you know that 19 students successfully passed their interprovincial Red Seal exam as a result of this innovative online delivery model. We did have some challenges as well as successes. So our challenges from the student perspective, students struggled with technology. It appears that the skill sets held by the digital native demographic is greatly misunderstood. Our solution, in the second iteration of this program, the first week was designed to orientate students to the use of all digital tools required throughout this program. Challenges in relation to instructors. Instructors lacked digital skills. They lacked knowledge of curriculum design and digital pedagogies. Our solution, we hosted a 3-day capacity building workshop for instructors from the 6 institutions across BC. Next, let's have a look at the benefits to the hairstylist industry and the training system. Apprentices were able to upskill through completion of technical training in a timely manner. This had a positive impact on completion rates. Apprentices were able to continue working during their technical training, relieving the pressure that comes from losing an employee for a block of time. That comes with the traditional model. And there's no wage subsidy required. Employers were also able to support their apprentices during the training because it was embedded in the workplace. And this allowed the employer the opportunity to customize it to their own needs. Most importantly, let's look at the benefits to the apprentices. There was increased accessibility to technical training as intakes were not cancelled due to low enrolments. The ability to work through technical training allowed the apprentices to sustain their income levels. The hairstylist runs on a cycle. Clients come in on average every 4 to 6 weeks for services. The models allowed the apprentices to continue to provide services to their established client base. It reduced their travel and accommodation expenses. And what we felt was one of the most significant benefits of this delivery model was having the technical training embedded directly into the workplace training for a truly authentic learning experience. So digitalized TVET delivery model itself has significant benefits for all of the stakeholder groups. The true success, however, of this project relied on the pedagogical practices that were used to design and deliver the curriculum, making this model unique in so many ways. Unique, yes, yet adaptable to fit other trades and to increase accessibility for learners all around the globe. That concludes my presentation. I look forward to your questions and your thoughts.